step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
Ignition sequence start. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We have a liftoff.
What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Two Doomed Men podcast. It is Skaggs here, and I am joined, as always, by El Capitan. How are you today, brother?
I'm better now.
If someone's listening, they probably can't tell the difference if that was a can opening or if that was a gun being racked back. It sounded that like close to it.
Oh well.
Cheers.
It's a tasty beer. Cheers. So yeah, you want to introduce our guest, or shall I go?
Go for it.
All right. Today we have a returning guest. You probably remember him from Angry Eric's Brewery, where we teamed up with Sergeant and Samurai. This is where we met our buddy Jeff right here. Jeff, say what's up.
Hey guys, how's it going? Really excited to be here. Can't wait to hang out with you guys. Let's get it on, man.
Yeah, man.
Definitely.
So tell us a little bit about Sons of Liberty and how you started it, how you got into it, so everybody, and where everybody could find you too. Let's get them on the front and the back.
You're not gonna find us on Facebook or Instagram. They kicked us off like 2 years ago. We don't do anything political. We do something that's very different than a lot of organizations. So let's just start from the beginning, right? If you want to find out about us, it's soldiscounts.com. We are also on Rumble. We're on Gab. We're on now Truth Social. But really, we got our start about 10 years ago. So 10 years ago, I got a teaching job in New Jersey, Central Jersey, and started teaching a Holocaust and genocide class. And one of the interesting things about becoming a teacher is most of the time when you're a kid, you think, oh, the teachers know everything. Well, a lot of times when they first get hired, they learn on the job, right? They're learning most of the stuff. You know, you get your college classes, you have your lectures. I get in there, I start teaching, about, Stalin, Mao, Hitler. I start teaching about the civilizations that were decimated by genocide. And I actually, I think it was like 2015, 2016, I put a project into the end of the year. It was called Game Plan for Resistance. And the idea was, if there's a genocide that's going to happen in our community, it's not happening on the other side of the world, it's happening right here. What are you going to do about it? So I had students, after we took a full year genocide course, break down what they would do if anything was ever going to happen to them. So this kind of got my juices flowing. And as the world kind of tumbled the past 10 years.
How old are these kids? My God, what a class to be in. What to do if there's a genocide. How old are these students?
Juniors and seniors in high school.
Okay.
Class. We kept everything respectful.
Yeah, I gotcha. Yeah.
Don't go crazy, but the idea was legitimately come up with a plan for your family, for your community, for your country. What do you think is going to help us? What is going to hurt us? Is dividing us between political parties going to help us? Is hating your neighbor going to help you? These are some questions I would lead with to try to just get them thinking about what really benefits you and what benefits other people, right?
Abortion is needed.
Right. That debate's what I need to talk about right now, right? Yeah. But no, here's the thing. So after years of doing this, my brother went into the military from a military family. You start seeing what's going on in the world and you go, you know what? And I'm not saying a genocide is going to happen right here. I'm not going to go that far. But what I will say is that what you learn is how totalitarian empires destroy communities and destroy countries. And that most of us little people, we want similar things. We want barbecues. We want nice nights out. We want to live nice lives, have good jobs and all those things. So what we decided to do is I talked to my brother and we were kind of game planning, like, what should we do? Should we just sit on our butts and complain like everyone else, And we decided to do something about it, just like you guys, We decided to use our resources in ways that we could to do something. So what we've done is we've created a small business survival network. It's a patriot network of patriotic people, veterans, law enforcement, first responders, small business owners. What we do is I'll go to a small business, like we were at Angry Eric's, right? Angry Eric's Brewing in Newton is in our network. I go up to Heidi and Eric, who are the two owners, right? You guys interviewed them.
Yep.
And I go, if we send patriotic people, if we send veterans, first responders, but also patriotic people to your business, people that love America, will you give them a discount? And they said yes. Took a little, not every business says yes right away, but we have 175 businesses here in North Jersey, some along the border of PA and some in New York. And we're looking to expand. We don't charge the businesses any money. And then we do is we go to events, real events, not online events. We go to real events, meet real people, and we sell discount cards. We donate 20% of end of year profits back to veterans. And then we do high-end merchandise. So t-shirts, I see one of them over there, Chris, right? We sell t-shirts,
Here we go.
sweatshirts. We want patriots to look good when they go out, and so what we're doing is we're trying to unite the community. If you really think about it, a lot of people think they can just vote and complain their way out of this. And it's not going to happen, right? We need to communicate, like this podcast. I want to promote, you guys are patriots. I want to promote your podcast as far and wide as I can get it, because I think people need alternative sources of information.
Yes.
But which aren't, right? Like none of our businesses in our network are corporations. If you look at the last, like I said, I'm a history teacher. If you look at the last 150 years of American and world history, we haven't even really dealt with what happened to humanity with the Industrial Revolution. We never really got over that. No one feeds themselves anymore with food, grown in their backyard in a first world country. And we all did that. Like a few generations ago, we were all doing that. And there are benefits to not having to grow your own food. And we'll talk about that kind of stuff today. But I'll tell you what, now you might need it. And you might not have the skills, right? When these big corporations come in, like, whatever it is, it could have been IBM 15, 20 years ago. It could be Apple. It could be Monsanto. It could be whatever. Name the big corporation. They come in, they undercut the price. Every little producer goes out of business. Guess what? Now your community is vulnerable because your community doesn't have anyone that can actually do that anymore. Like I'm sitting here in Sparta, New Jersey. Sparta, New Jersey has no butcher shop in town, right? We want to go to a butcher shop. We need to go to ShopRite, right? And what happened in Canada during the pandemic? Where couldn't certain people go? If you were of a certain persuasion, say you were unvaccinated, could you go to Walmart?
Nope.
No, not unless you need to get a certain thing. So my point is if you have to rely on global corporations, then you have to rely on businesses that don't have your interests at heart.
Of course.
So we support all the small businesses. We want to support the veterans, first responders. And then what we do is we invite everyone out to brewery festivals, because the American Revolution started in breweries and distilleries, and people talking and going, the king, this is crap what the king's doing, blah, blah, blah. And they riled themselves up and they formed communities and they fought back. So the symbolism is that if we want a rebirth of the American Revolution, we need to do it we can do it the same way that they did it. We don't have to throw the past away and try to start something new. Just look to our traditions, right? That's what we did. We did Angry Eric's for Revolution Fest. Our next event, if anyone wants to come out, June 25th, Independence Fest. It's at Milk Street Distillery in Branchville, New Jersey. Right now, we're doing most of our events in North Jersey to get a nice base, and then we're going to expand to PA, New York, and just keep going out. But we're going to have 4 bands, 2 food trucks, a dunk tank. We're going to be dunking local politicians and donating all the veterans. We'll also have some other business owners, but if you're a local politician, you want to get dunked, come on over, if you're a good sport. All right. And then we're going to have a cornhole tournament. We're going to have a great time. There's no reason if we live in America that we only have to protest, get mad. You live in America. You're free right now. Start acting like it. Don't let anyone tell you you're not. Don't let a state tell you you're not. The Constitution of the United States and the Bill of Rights, the law of the land. You're a free person right now. Let's get together and celebrate our freedom the right way. So if you want to do that, hopefully we're going to have more and more of these events throughout the year and then expand throughout the country. But the idea is, if you're not near us, if you're not near New Jersey, PA, or New York, start your own discount club. If we have 1,000 discount clubs, if we have patriotic discount clubs, if we're having these parties all over the country, no, what are they going to do? Come in and what are they going to arrest us like Footloose?
Right.
So what we need to do is we're saying is we need to get our own. We need to look inward before we look outward. Everyone's going, what's going on in the world? We need to fix ourselves first. Fix your community, get skilled, learn new skills. We have tons of instructors, whether that's farming, horseback riding, fishing, hunting, shooting. If you know how to do stuff and the country collapses, hopefully it doesn't, you know what I mean? But if the country collapses and you know how to do stuff, you're in a great position. Skills are the one thing they can never take away from you, right? Up to death, right? They can't take your skills away. They can take your land, they can take your property. But if you have that special set of skills, right, you can go Liam Neeson on them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Amen, brother. Amen.
So it's like, that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to just say, hey, it's not all the political game. The politics is there. And I mean, you look at Pennsylvania, what happened yesterday, right? You look, politics still matters. But what you do in your community, who's on your school boards, who's your local sheriff, you know what I mean? Who's running your county? These are things that people need to know politically. Which businesses are you going to, right? Every dollar you spend is a vote. Every single day, every dollar is a vote. So are you voting for businesses that are going to bring you more freedom or less? Are you buying things that make you weaker or stronger? Are you getting in shape physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally? Because if you won't, you're not going to be ready for things that can happen in the world. As a history teacher, this is the greatest country to ever live in. In this time, I'm going from the 50s to now. Now we had racial problems, right? We had different things. The whole world was destroyed in World War II. It was gone. We were the only factories left. We talked about this, I think, at the brewery. And the idea is America has been a fountain of stability in the world, like it or don't like it. And if you're in the third world, right? America's been the stability. And us Americans, we think that stability is just forever. And if you look at history, man, it can sweep away like that. And
it's not a static situation that is guaranteed forever.
Right. Things can go sideways quick. So this is all we're saying. Get skilled, support small businesses, support the local veterans, support your local first responders, and get together in a community like we were doing, right? Like at the pod, like just make it fun, make it interactive. And if you're in Jersey, New York, PA, come and hang out with us. We're gonna have a great time. You're gonna network with a lot of patriotic people, and we're just gonna build a community around America. Imagine if every small business owner in the whole country was united. What we would be stronger than any.
We'd be a corporation.
You know what I mean? We would overpower. You know, people would start just buying all the local stuff. Patriotic people would, you know, and we would just have our parallel economy, and we would strengthen, and they would weaken.
It doesn't put that a parallel economy. I like that phrase. Yeah.
And the thing is, and this is my last point on this, is just like, if you're going to have a parallel economy, right, it's going to strengthen you. It's going to separate you a little bit. But what it's going to do too is it's like, this is Alex Jones talks about the information war, right? It's an information war. It's a trade war. We are in battle with a group of people. You could call them the Davos crowd, the central bankers, the big wig money. They called it the money power 100 years ago during the populist movement. William Jennings Bryan talked about the money power, how it was taking over the country. And, this was like 1890. The big money was taking over the country. And if that's the case, what they want, we know what they want. They want everyone under them. And they want control of everything. And so that means no free communities, no free nations, no free people, no free ideas, no Bill of Rights. That means you and I, our existence and what we believe in, and that thing right there, don't tread on me, gets squashed like a bug if they succeed. So how do we fight back? We fight back in every way we can. There is no way we don't fight back. So yes, do your political stuff. Yes, do your other stuff, but do these things too. Because these things, if it turns sideways, are the things that are really going to protect you. Right? That community, those skills, those connections, and just that togetherness that brings to the people, right? We have major issues in this country. I'm in the schools. There's so many kids I see that have in single parent homes, and a lot of them do a really good job. But what happens is when you don't have that family, like I don't even want the mom and dad together. I want the cousins and the uncles and everyone. You know what I mean? When you have everyone together, you ever notice how your confidence goes up when you're around like a group of people that are like-minded with you? Well, that's what happens.
Yeah, Chris knows something about that. Sure.
Yeah.
They isolate us out, and then before the show, we're talking about Twitter, right? Then they throw a ton of fake bots on. Oh, I'm one. Everyone disagrees with me. No, it's like the Wizard of Oz. Remember the Wizard of Oz? They go behind the curtain.
Yeah.
and it's all an illusion.
Speaking of that, right? We were just saying how what we were saying before we got on that Joe Biden, like they were saying 50% of his followers are not
Yep.
real, that they're all bots. I mean, that's literally the emperor has no clothes. That's literally that. It's not even real. Like it looks like he has a lot of followers, but he doesn't. It's all fake. Yeah.
That statement, 50%, you never know if it's low.
Yeah, that's the number they agreed upon to let out into.
And I mean,
into the world.
even if that's, you never know if that's low. Even if it is 50%, that's a lot of fucking followers. Talking about millions of, even if it's really 25% only, that's still a tremendous amount of followers. I mean, it's already, it's a lot just because that it's admitted or it's circulating that it's at 50%. It's a crazy thought.
But it goes back to the information war, right? And it goes back to every way these big, who's exactly? Well, it's, I love this. This is my favorite. You telling me that there's a group of people that are trying to take over the world? I was like, have you ever heard of the British Empire?
You ever heard of history? You ever heard of human history?
They plan things to take over things. And after World War II, everyone goes, yeah, the British just, in the textbook, it's like, yeah, then the British Empire just collapsed. I'm like, wait, you're telling me all those billionaires in Britain who were running that empire just packed up and went home and started picnicking with their kids? Like, are you kidding me? Like,
well, I always had the theory that the Nazis really weren't defeated. They just fell back, infiltrated, and played the long game. Yeah.
Well, what it shows is that a lot of what the Americans and British were saying against the Nazis. I mean, obviously, you look at like events like the Holocaust and the civilian casualties in World War II were crazy high. But I will say this, it shows you that after the war, they were like, how did you run that SS thing? Hey, I want you come here. You ran the SS, right? Tell me about it. Go talk to the CIA. Go talk to the MI6. They were like, we want to know about this. You guys were really hard. It was a close one. Like they were very impressed.
Teach us. Yeah.
They took them to NASA. They took them to the military. Operation Paperclip.
Yeah.
I mean, God, the ones that went to Russia, I feel bad for them because they're done. You know what I mean? But they took half of them to Russia, to the Soviet Union, and half of them to us. And but it goes to show you that war, a lot of times for an empire, isn't about morals. War is about who's going to win. And when you look at, you're right. But I will say this, my theory too, and this is a theory that it's something that I kind of came to later in my career, is that when the British Empire kind of military collapsed, the economic part of the British Empire kind of latched onto America to become this Atlantic deep state that we're still dealing with today. So I think a lot of them are connected. You have that, all the Wall Street banks are chartered in London. Right. You know what I mean? That kind of thing. So you have this connection. Now, I'm not blaming everything on Britain, even though the Sons of Liberty are no fans of Britain. And that's one of my jokes I use sometimes, right? People come up, they go, are you for Republicans, Democrats? I go, are you British? Because they're the only people that shouldn't like this. And it's a joke, good. But the idea is like, if you're dealing with empires, if you're dealing with these are not rational. You're not going to be able to rationally deal with these things. The empires are things that gobble. They gobble up land. They gobble up resources. They take control of things. And what they do is they love to make people dependent. A culture of dependency. Just walk around America. Go to the mall. Go to Walmart. You know what I mean? They're foisting this on the people. And I'm not saying it's like 5 guys in a room, but empires know and operate under the assumption of what's good for the empire. You ever heard them say, like when they call the guys before Congress, right? And they're like in the military or in the CIA, and they go, oh, I can't, that's national security, right? Every question is national security,
right? Threat, or right, yeah.
They don't mean national security. Edward Snowden brought this up. They mean state security.
Yeah.
They mean is, they're not saying, oh, this could harm the nation. What they mean is, this could harm my boss, or this could harm someone in our organization that represents the nation. So they call it national. It's state security. It's meaning this could hurt the government.
Right.
Right. That's what that means. So to me, it's not like just, it is a plan, because that's how empires operate. They've always operated like that. So we're fighting empire. And the one thing that empires are at root are monopolies. A government monopoly, right? You can never declare independence from an empire. I mean, even when we did in 1776, the British were writing letters like, yeah, we'll let them go for a little bit, we'll get them back.
Right.
Like
It's
like
not over till we say it is. Yeah.
yeah, it's like we the British crown never gives up land. You know what I mean? That type of thing. You can never leave the British realm. You know what I mean? That type of thing.
Right.
And
Even historically, right? Like a lot of these former colonies still kind of pledged their allegiance to the Queen and the monarchy, like Canada or Jamaica, whatever it might be.
well, they were still controlled by them up through World War II.
Yeah.
And really, the Queen even has the right to dismiss the Canadian Parliament at will. If she's like, yeah, I don't like what they're talking about, dismiss them, new elections, get new people.
Nice.
It doesn't happen, but she does theoretically have that right. Yeah.
And then here's the kicker, right? So we work very closely with the Anglosphere, right? Because we speak English, and it's just whatever. I think it has something to do with this like Atlantic kind of deep state. But you heard of the Five Eyes?
Yes, I have.
Right. So
I'm surprised you haven't heard of this, Cap. But go ahead.
No, I don't think I've heard of this.
So it's the British. It's British intelligence, Canadian intelligence, Australian, New Zealand, and America. Right. Mm-hmm. So we are with 4 British intelligence agencies. So get this. So when the CIA says we're not spying on Americans, they're telling the truth, because the CIA does this. When they want info on Chris, they pick up the telephone and they go, hey, MI6 in Britain, can you look up Chris? Okay. Hey, whenever you're done with that, can you send the report over to us? Thank you. And then they do this. They do the reverse for British people. Like, we can't spy on our own people, but we can work with other intelligence agencies that do it.
It's an ingenious system, really.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it works. So it's just, look, it's to me and to our organization, we're going to do anything we can to support the local community, the small business, getting people face to face, because as good as this is, and I'm so glad I'm on this podcast, and I'm so glad the internet's here, because it's a tool just like anything else. It can be used for great things or for terrible things. It's people get sucked in, and then their community becomes a forum, or it becomes something online, and then they become even more isolated. And then, what happens is they start censoring the internet, and then you don't even get good information, and then people don't have any skills. So at least at our website, you can find instructors that'll teach you skills. You can find real events where you can come out, hang out with real fun people, patriotic people. And you know what I mean? We can reestablish a real life economy by using the internet as an assistant rather than
a networking tool, for real life. Yeah.
I think it's a great, once I learned about, your business and how you run it, I always thought this was a great idea. And I keep my eye out for like small business owners and anybody who's like ex-military who does it, so I could let them know. But like, you're so right. Cause like Skaggs and I always talk about like the importance of learning how to hunt, because if there's food shortages, there's people in this world in America that are going to show up to Walgreens tomorrow or show up to ShopRite and go, oh, there's no food on the shelves, I'll just come back tomorrow. You know what I mean? Like they really think that like, oh, the truck is just running late, and the food magically grows on the shelves, where no, you got to start growing your vegetables. You got to start hunting. You got to start fishing,
Yeah. You got to ensure that you are able to survive without the system. I mean, we just, it seems like it's going to wrap up and sort itself out, but we just had the baby food formula shortage here that just began, right? I mean, what a terrifying thought, being a new father. Like, imagine your baby has nothing to eat. I don't know if people have had babies before, but babies are hungry all the time. And if they don't eat, they don't grow. If they don't grow, they die, right? So, I mean, that is like a terrifying thing. So it is hard to breastfeed at the same time, right? It really is for a woman. It's not an easy task. So what's the answer there, right? I don't really know. You need a combination of both. That's why we have such high, that's why infant mortality is not what it used to be 100 years ago, where babies used to die all the time. So again, that points back to how people take for granted the way things are right now, right? We're not in a static environment. At any moment, the baby food could be gone, right? And then there's millions of hungry babies everywhere starving to death. Terrifying, right?
And yeah, it is. And if you look at the people that you end up arguing with, the anti-gun, anti-hunting, hunting's animal abuse or something like that, the people who rely on the nanny state, they're all the same type of people. These basement dwelling video game computer hacks that have no real physical skills, or, they might be educated, but teach me how to grow a plant, teach me how to, hunt an animal or anything, produce for yourself. They're the most reliant type of people who are always on the other end of the argument.
We call those people, and it's not I didn't coin it. I think it was a comedian. I think it was Owen Benjamin or something way back in the day. Indoor cats. They're indoor cats. Think about it. What happens if an indoor cat is sitting inside, room temperature controlled house, TV's on, little bowl of milk, and this dirty, clawing outdoor cat walks in the house with a big fat mouse in his mouth. That indoor cat is freaking out. He's declawed. He doesn't know what to do. He's never seen that before. The outdoor cat just going, right? And I'm not, look, people can be indoor cats and outdoor cats. And part of the reason we set up our company isn't just for outdoor cats. We live in Jersey. There's a lot of people that haven't shot a gun before. There's a lot of people that haven't grown a tomato. A lot of Italians that haven't grown a tomato, which is kind of sacrilegious.
But whatever. Took the words out of my mouth.
Right? And you go down the list. I'm Italian too. So, I mean, I get it. But there's a lot of good, patriotic, hardworking people, and they don't know where to start. They don't know. They're just working hard,
Right.
They don't know what to do. But maybe if they joined our network for $20 for the year for our card, well, they could go to RTSP or Gun for Hire or Reloaders or Heritage Guild. That's 5 or 6 different gun ranges right here in North Jersey, and get a free gun rental every day of the year for $365. It's a $25 to $35 value at those places.
That was a flawless plug. I love it.
It's on $20 for the year, and 20% goes back to veterans. And if you're a first responder or veteran, it's the $10. And VFW American Legion free. Can't put that on the website, but we will give it to free to any American Legion or VFW, because it goes back to the main point at the beginning, right? Community. Got to get these vets, these younger guys in. We have these. Okay, I want you to think about this. Almost every town has a Legion or a VFW, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right,
or one of those lodges like the Elks, right? Yeah, stuff like that.
But no, let's just take the veteran ones, right? Those two, they're the amount of people at these bars. I mean, they're these older World War II, Korean, Vietnam guys. These guys are dying out. There are these beautiful bars in your town that have $2 beers that younger vets could literally take over, bring their kids out, and reinvigorate, and bring back these little communities in each of our town. And we could do that with these. We have a lot of vets from Desert Storm and from Afghanistan, Iraq, and all these operations we've been doing that we don't declare, right? And they could come back and, they could take these places over. So we want to work. We want to be a voice to do that. Yo, join the VFW, man, and we'll give you a card for free. You know what I mean? Type thing. So.
Yeah, I think that's great. And I think trying to build community is critical. It's crucial, right?
Mm-hmm.
To the survival of society. I think a problem is there's an all-out effort to demoralize society and just people in general, right? Because if people are demoralized, they're less likely to come together and work together and do things, and just think, there's nothing I could do. I'm fucked. I might as well just bury my head in the sand and do nothing. I want, being that you're a history professor, let me bounce something off of you. It's kind of more recent history, where I think we had almost a divergence point occur, and this ties back to almost the beginning of wokeism and identity politics and things like that. So I don't know if you remember, around 2009ish, there was the Occupy Wall Street movement in Manhattan, right? And around the same time, there was the Tea Party movement, right? And so now you could theoretically say, at this time, that the Occupy Wall Street movement was kind of a left movement, a movement, spawned from the left, and the Tea Party movement was kind of spawned from the right. And the Occupy movement had figured out, hey, these banks, these gigantic corporations are doing exactly what you said before. Monsanto, they're poisoning the food, they're ripping us off, they crashed the economy, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. At the same time, the Tea Party is saying, hey, this government is fucked up. They're too big, and they're working together with corporations, and they're ruining everything, right? I feel like the right and the left at this time were very close to figuring out who's the real bad guy here. And they were both mobile, they were both active, they were both starting to do something about it. I was listening to this the other day. If you do a Google search for gendered terms, all the woke terms, right, on social, on just the internet, around 2009, it skyrockets. right? Like the conversation around gender ideology and all these woke things, you all know, right? Skyrockets around that time. So what do you think happened? Do you think around this time, the elites, whoever's in charge, realize, holy shit, we're in big trouble, right? Because the two sides are about to figure out that they're really on the same side. We better do something to fucking divide everybody. And they introduced politicians, corporations, etc., identity politics, which has now 10 years later, 12 years later, more so, maybe 13. I mean, things are more divided than ever. So I agree with you. Community is great, but it almost feels impossible to form a gigantic community again because of this wedge that has been driven behind everybody. What do you think about the whole scenario?
I think what you just brought up is one of the most important stories of the 21st century in America, because you had, how old are you guys?
30, mid-30s, 33.
33. I'm 33. So we're the same age, right? We're right around that same age. So, you grew up in kind of, what was the first thing you remember in politics? The first thing I remember politically was the president, someone went down on him. And that
Bill
Me
Clinton.
too. The president got a blowjob. That's the first thing I remember too.
Politics used to be so great. It's like the first memory I have. You know what I mean? It's like, mommy, what does that mean? You know what I mean? Type thing. And then we're bombing Kosovo and all that stuff. And then I don't remember that. But then 9/11 happens, and you have the establishment of the security state. And at first you had the anti-war movement from the more of the Democratic side, and then you had the Ron Paul revolution. And you saw people, you're right, you saw this populist surge, which I really think continued on into Bernie and Trump, right? I think, one of I was at a school and a lot of people were really upset when Trump won. And in 2016, my response every time was, shouldn't have let Hillary stole it from Bernie,
Right.
Said that before.
Right. And I'm like, yeah.
I keep freezing.
And then these people, the same people that are like, oh, elections aren't stolen 4 years. What about Bernie? We just talked to Bernie. But are you guys, am I lagging?
No, you're good.
I think I am.
It's just Chris, but it's
I want to
fine.
make sure.
We can still hear you fine, Chris. It's just your video's a little shoddy, but no worries.
So
Okay.
Look, I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but your hypothesis is the same as mine, in the sense that, and again, I'm not a professor. I was a teacher and now I'm an administrator, but I definitely see what you're saying. I love this political cartoon. It was on Twitter, and it had this inside of Wall Street. It said Wall Street. It was like inside one of their offices, and they're banging on the door. It's like Occupy Wall Street outside. Yep. And then it says introducing identity politics.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen it before.
I've seen that.
And no, I absolutely think that if not just the two political parties, they divide us on every level. If Pepsi and Coke drinkers, if go down the list, if all the people realize that the majority of us are just the little people, and that these like I said, these big giant corporations. But I do want to get into this a little bit more in a minute on a different point, because what you said was the demoralization. I'd really like to talk about that in a second.
Yeah,
but
go for it.
No, I completely agree with you that people were starting to figure out the Federal Reserve.
Right.
I don't know if I can see my creatures from Jekyll Island back there next to the but The Creature from Jekyll Island is a great book if you want to learn about the Federal Reserve and the establishment of it. These big, guys, this is all that the Federal Reserve is. The Federal Reserve is a bank created and owned by the Bank of Americas and all the big banks who used to be in the turn of the century owned by actual families. They were partnerships. They weren't owned by like a corporate board. So if you want to actually trace back all that stuff, all you have to do is go back and look at the partnerships on Wall Street in the late 1900s. You know what I mean? Yeah, you had the Rockefellers and the all those big guys that they talk about in school, but there was a lot more. There was a lot more names. So I encourage you to go check that out. But my point is this, is like, absolutely divide and conquer. You know what I mean? It goes back to divide and conquer. The Romans, were really good at it. The British perfected it. And now that's what they do. They use media to divide and conquer. So yeah, the Occupy Wall Street people were so close. And look what happened. Now we got I think they had a baby and made Tim Pool, right?
Right. I mean, he was there. That's where he gained his original fame, from being there. Yeah. It's interesting too, because you know who Peter Schiff is?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, he was down there. I mean, Peter Schiff is like a Wall Street investment sort of guy. But I mean, he's been railing against the Federal Reserve and all this bullshit. And there's videos of Peter Schiff down in the Occupy Wall Street, suit and fucking tie, right? And he's down there talking to a bunch of activists in the street who are not suit and tie. And he's trying to tell them, like, yeah, he's trying to make the point of, like, you guys are almost there. You're right. He's trying to make the point of the Federal Reserve and the money printing and the debt-backed financing scheme and all this stuff. It's like, oh my God, they were right there. They just didn't take the next step because this wave overtook them.
Well, but look at what happens, right? And this is one of the reasons why I said I hope there's 1,000 of these. Like, what I mean by that is 1,000 patriotic discount clubs. They're posting their own events and their own parties. This shouldn't really be something. Now, we do want to take this nationwide, but again, if it's one company, that there's a head of the snake to take off, right? No pun intended, but, right? There's the way, if it's one company or one group controlling it, just like look at like social media. So this is what I'm saying to you. You don't need one Occupy Wall Street. You need every city having their own type of movement, but you can't have central command. Like that's one of the biggest mistakes.
Can't monopolize.
Centralization sucks no matter what it is. Yeah.
You know, and
it's funny, you know, the way you put it. We always talk about the podcast community that we're a part of, and just podcasts alone, and this new alternative form of media and spreading information. And Skaggs and I, we were having this conversation earlier about how Trump, how Biden calling Trump the MAGA king, and how using ultra MAGA has just blown up in their face. And there's these people sitting in think tanks trying to figure out how they're going to combat memes and social media. And the best they could come up with is, you know, the MAGA king. Like, we're not going to run wild with that one.
It took them 6 months to come up with that, the ultra MAGA thing, and the MAGA king. I mean, do they not know how MAGA people are? They fucking love it. They think it's hysterical and it's great. Trump posted a meme of him as Aragorn from Lord of the Rings, Return of the King. It's hysterical. I mean,
you know, God. So as these communities, as this podcast community grows, and, you know, check out like our Roku channel, the Patriot Podcast Network, you got a little bit of everything. You want to do super conspiracies, you want to do super politics, you want to hear what other congressmen have to say and stuff, like, you could find it there. You can't get us all. It's, you know, death by 1,000 cuts. And the same thing, if there's 1,000 more Patriot, you know, discount companies that are bringing together, the community itself will grow. You know, just the more that you can find, even though if it's small town America doing it, that's another little small town to add to your quiver, your arsenal.
Hell yeah. And, you know, that's it. It's like it's that idea of, okay, they're going to play whack-a-mole, but we're going to play too, and we're going to defeat them. You know what I mean? Like, we're going to
be 5 million moles in one hammer.
And the thing is, it's like what I try to preach at even in the school is like the idea of growth mindset, and this is growth mindset. When you don't succeed, that's not failure. When you give up, that's failure. Okay, that's it. That's the whole thing.
Yeah, I agree. Every failure is also a learning experience, you know. So it's not...
right. Every failure is a learning experience. So come at me. I'm going to learn another way that didn't work to get around you. And I'll get around you. I'll go through you. I'll go under. I'll go over you. I'm not going to stop until I have what's rightfully mine. Right. And that's the attitude. So bring it on, you know, bring it on.
Either that or they tell you to look at the wall.
You know,
turn to face the wall.
Yeah, you're gonna keep going through people and not stop and get around them until you hear, you know, turn around, face the wall.
Yeah, that's another meme I just sent to James with We the People. I was like, interesting. Okay, turn, face the wall. It's like the communist guy.
That's what the communists did, right? And let's bring it back real quick. The demoralization is a standard practice in communist countries. Okay.
Yes.
But what is the root of communism? Okay, so communism, and I'm not getting into the intellectual roots, because Karl Marx, yes, he wrote a lot of things about communism. That's fantastic. But where was the money coming from to fund communism? It was coming from British and German, but mostly British. I mean, these Angles is right in Britain, right in London. It's coming from he's getting funded to write. You know, this is what happens. People think that think everything's a conspiracy. Everyone's in on a conspiracy. That's not true. If you're a billionaire, if I'm the biggest billionaire, and I see some poor, schmuck on the street or whatever, he has a little podcast but he's saying things that are aligned with what's good for me. I'm going to throw him bones. Okay. And then he's going to think people like me. I'm popular. You know what I mean? Like I'm a voice that the world wants. You know, that's what Anderson Cooper. Anderson Cooper is the Vanderbilt family.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. He's a Vanderbilt too. So my point is like they either put their families in here or they find people that are true believers in what they believe. They'd rather deal with that. Oh, you're great. They shower them with praise and then they give them money and just keep doing what you're doing. But whatever they're doing in some way is destroying community, family, country. It's harming, it's doing harm to the networks of people that already exist. And so what I'm saying is like Karl Marx might have been a true believer in communism, but he was being funded by big dudes like Engels and others, right? So you have this funding mechanism. And when you really dive into communism, what I see communism it was the overthrow of the altars and thrones. Before World War I, we're in Game of Thrones in Europe, right? It's all everything. If you want to do anything, you need to go to an altar or a throne or like a throne room. You know what I mean? To get things done.
Especially in Russia itself was a monarchy at the time.
Yeah, that's where things got done. So what is the Russian Revolution? To me, the theory that makes the most sense to me, and again, when I was a teacher, I gave all the theories. I didn't give just my theory, but the best theory is that this was and I say capitalist, but I mean the moguls, the corporatists, the guys that we're still fighting right now, you know what I mean, all over the world, that think that they own the world because they have the most money and they can just make everyone do what they want. Especially the British. The British hated the Russians. Most people don't realize that. They always talk about the Germans. But I will say this: what was the Russian Revolution? It was a movement of the very, very, very rich funding the very, very, very poor against the middle class. Because the middle class are the business owners, the middle class are the police officers, the military, they protect the royalty, they keep the society moving and going. But Russia had and China too, had such divided. They had the serf class and the owner class. And the owner class treated the serf class terribly. It was an easy sell. Hey, why does that guy get to tell you what to do, right? You know what I mean? Let's kill him and take his stuff. Yeah, that's an easy sell. You know, So they sold that, but who was selling it? It was the richest. I mean, I'll give you an example. This is not a conspiracy. Trotsky was in New York talking to financiers for months before the revolution. He got caught in Canada with like a barrel of gold coins and cash. Like, I'm not even kidding. Like a bucket. He had like a trunk filled with money and passports and all kinds of stuff. And the British, like they arrested him and they called like high command and they were like, what do we do about this guy? And they were like, let him go. And they let him go back because, whatever. I don't know why, but all I'm saying,
paid operative, essentially, right? Yeah. Aligned with their goals. Yeah.
This was not an organic movement. So if you read about communism, this is what communism does. They use a class war to demoralize the nation. They say you're terrible, your traditions are terrible, your language is terrible, the idea that your families are terrible, everything's terrible. Like they drive that into the population until they get enough people. And this is like,
does it sound familiar?
Yeah.
Before Hitler in Germany, there were others, but then Hitler picked it up and, did whatever. But that whole idea of the Untermensch, the underclass, was the original term for that. Like the vagrants and the poor and the people walking the streets, especially between the world wars. Oh man, hey, let's overthrow the government. Here's a rifle. Let's do it. You know what I mean? This is an easy sell. So my point is this is big money funding the poor against the middle class. This does not have to be with class. It doesn't have to be a class war though. It is in the back of the minds of the people doing it, but they might sell it as a race war. They might sell it as you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be that. Like in Germany in the 1920s, after they lost World War I, they actually established the school of sexology, and they were promoting transgenderism in Germany.
I just heard about this today, literally.
Germany. And, I'm not saying, like, I was just reading books about that. They were saying Hitler burned LBGT books, and I was reading the article about it, just
you must have read the same thing I read, yeah.
But my point is like, that was a group of communists who thought that class war wasn't the right way to go. It was a sexuality war.
Okay.
An identity war.
I kind of mentioned this to you before, Cap. I heard James Lindsay talk about this. I think he was talking to Joe Rogan about it. And he was saying how like the new age Marxists have essentially chosen gender ideology and whatnot as their thing. And his theory, and I don't even know if he wants to call it a theory anymore, but he has said that in order for Marxism or communism to really come about, everything you're saying, it always needs to almost remain revolutionary and get people to overthrow the current power structure, right? The thing is, the problem with communism and Marxism most of the time is eventually that class of people who are going to overthrow, they end up becoming the people in power, right? And so then they become the oppressor, and then another group becomes the oppressed. So like, how do you solve for that problem where the group that comes into power no longer is the oppressed?
Well,
you have a perfect build. This is James Lindsay's theory.
Yeah,
you have a perfectly baked in way to do it with the non-binary, gender fluid, thing that's going on, right? Because if you could, today you're a man, tomorrow you're a woman. I now at 3 o'clock I'm a cat, I'm a unicorn later, etc. You're nothing. You're not anything. So at any moment you could just shift and change to become the oppressed class, therefore ensuring that your movement always remains revolutionary in a way.
Well, this is what they do. They target the lower class with really nice, flowery sounding good things. Like
equity.
And I'll say this, I'm in a school. What I'm saying isn't like targeted towards the bottom. People, what I'm saying is that there's a manipulation. I think that's a really interesting theory. I would add this though. I would actually disagree a little bit, and this is the point I would disagree on. The people that overthrew the czar did not rule after, except for the small clique at the very top, like the very, very top. Most of the revolutionaries were killed, because if you're a revolutionary,
right,
there's no use for you after the revolution.
Yeah, they're actually like the first people that get killed normally
they're
after.
Those against the law.
Right.
And so what I would say is that when you have a system like this, and remember, we're dealing with this, but my point is that I believe that communism, just like whatever's happening now, is this big money coming from very, very wealthy pockets of, private equity groups and stuff like that. I mean, they had that similar stuff, trusts 100 years ago, right? And if you look at that money and where it goes, it was used in some ways, some of the banks on Wall Street to fund the Russian Revolution. And guess what? After the Russian Revolution went through, they did not forgive their debts. Russia was like, we're paying our debt. Like the Soviets were like, we're going to pay our debts and starve our people to do it, because they're not really our people. We're just invaded this country and we're using them as cattle. So to me, the way communism, and by the way, the top 20% of the country is killed. All the intellectuals, anyone in the military, anyone that has skills. So they create an entire underclass that have none of these skills. It sounds very similar to what we're talking about now. The only difference is there's different justifications for the reason for it and recruitment of revolutionaries. But I also think, and I will say this, I do think that I understand why young people might want to be transgender today or might go down these roads because of the state of the world. I mean, look at how much mental health issues we have. And I'm not saying that just, just that, but I'm just saying, like, look at the dereliction of parents.
Right.
Not just like at school with schoolwork, but like the idea that, how parents continue to act like children into adulthood. They don't grow up. They don't, you know what I mean? They go, oh, my kid.
Parents have taken the example of like the Kim Kardashian, and look, I respect Kim Kardashian for some things, but then at the end of the day, she portrays herself as essentially like a childish person at times, and like a caricature, a cartoon character, right? Yeah, like that's culture essentially.
They're trying to be friends.
That's culture being created, whether you like it or not, and then that culture gets replicated by other adults, as they go on through life. Yeah.
They're trying to be friends to the kids instead of parents.
Well, yeah, the whole thing.
Everybody wants to be the cool mom and the cool dad.
Right. Yeah, but it even goes to like this. I don't know. Your mayor doesn't want to do anything. You know what I mean? He's like, oh, I can't do anything. It's just like, I'm just the mayor. The parents are going, oh, I'm just their parents. I can't make it. The schools are going, oh, I just can't do. Everyone's just passing the buck. And, at some point you got to go, well, I'm either happy and I'm going to put up with what's happening right now, or I'm going to say, look, the adults are back in the room and this is over. You know what I mean? And I don't mean like, I'm not talking about anything specific. I'm talking about the idea of like reestablish yourselves, get involved. You know what I mean? Stand up for yourselves. You know, people don't stand up for themselves at work. They don't stand up for themselves, you know, in social situations. Sometimes, you know, I get myself in trouble because I tell it like it is in certain situations. Some people don't like that, but tough. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, that's the whole problem with social media. And we're seeing people stand up for their kids in these schools, that they don't want their kids to be sexualized. They don't want their kids learning critical race theory. And, you know, the dying empire is criminalizing them and calling them terrorists for questioning these methods. Because for so long it was, oh, I can't do nothing about it. Oh, the school board can't do nothing about it. But now we're trying to do something about it. And then the people in power start crying real loud.
Oh yeah, they cry real quick, don't they?
Yeah. Right. Or they mobilize the FBI immediately to start targeting parents who are domestic terrorist threats.
Every shooter we've had in the past 2 years has been on an FBI watch list, but you know, they all fly under the radar on their day. But if a parent stands up to a teacher, we got some questions.
Yeah. It's wild, isn't it? I think that's a good point, Cap. Let's transition real quick into what happened over the weekend, which, you know, if you haven't heard, I'm sure you have, right? Because it's been propagated throughout all news coverage and media. No matter where you turned, you saw it, you heard about it. The president went and he spoke. Some psychopath turned out in Buffalo, New York, and to a supermarket and shot how many people, Cap? 13 people, I believe,
13
killed them.
people. Yeah.
He posted a manifesto online. He live streamed it on Twitch, kind of very similar to the way the Christchurch shooter in New Zealand years ago did. He is without a doubt a white nationalist. However, if you look at his manifesto, he's all over the place.
Yeah, he has no one political ideology.
He is also an eco-terrorist in terms of he's a very big supporter of some left-wing ideals, socialism, green energy, things like that. But at the same time, he considers himself a Nazi. Worth noting, he does not consider himself a conservative. He very clearly says so in his manifesto. This point, and it's obviously a disgusting, horrific fucking act to do something like that. That should go without saying, right? The coverage, on the other hand, of it has been wall-to-wall insanity, just bad points, bad faith arguments being made. And it goes back to what we were talking about before, divisiveness, division, divisiveness, right? They're turning it into the president, you know, it's white nationalism is the most, you know, the gravest threat to our democracy right now, you know, and everybody's saying that. Chris Murphy, all your usual people.
Losers.
Well, can I translate that real quick?
Go for it, yeah.
Remember we talked about earlier, a threat to national security. Really, he means a threat to state security.
Yep, yes. Threat to my boss, yeah.
Yes.
And you know, I don't know, but I mean, like, if you're thinking state security, there are a lot of really armed people in this country, and you know, like, the government is scared of them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just saying,
they have to be.
That's true.
You know, it's if you band together and fight back, you know, in any way, shape, or form, it ain't gonna be fun.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like, I'm not an advocate for war, because I'm advocating for gardening, you know?
Yeah, right, of course.
You know what I mean?
I think this is such a wild scenario, of course, because of what the guy did. But I mean, if you go back 3 episodes, I believe it is now, on Two Doomed Men, there was an episode called The Prophet of Truth, Frank James, aka The Prophet of Truth 88. And if no one remembers who that guy is, you should, because the captain has made sure to remind you almost every episode since then. He was a New York City subway shooter who just decided to open fire in the subway in Brooklyn. And at the time when we did this episode, we said, we talked about how the story got memory hold. And, you know, I watched some of his videos on YouTube. He had a channel, Prophet of Truth 88. He had about 700 something videos. He was a black nationalist. He was a leftist, essentially. He was, I guess you could say, almost a complete opposite of this guy in Buffalo. Essentially ideologically. And we said at the time, had this happened in reverse, it would be wall-to-wall coverage, because that is what divides people. And here we are. The receipt has been pulled 3 episodes, I believe it is, later. We were right. It is wall-to-wall coverage. The president went there. He spoke about it. But the New York Frank James has been completely erased No one is talking about it anymore. It's over. It's done with. No one cares. It really is just, it's right there. All you have to do is see it. It's just insane. I don't know, Cap, give your take, say your piece.
It's, you know, I'm sorry to jump in, Jeff, but you know, once I started hearing and finding out about this horrific act that happened in Buffalo, I was like, that's it. I'm out. I don't want to listen to a word that has to be said, because I knew from the start, here comes the propaganda machine. White nationalists, white supremacy is the biggest problem in America. It's a health risk to be white, you know.
Give up the guns.
Yeah, and I was spot on. There was no point in learning what happened, because we're not going to remember a single person who died. In a week, we're not going to remember what the name of the grocery store was. All we're going to know is white nationalists, AR-15, guns are bad. You know, right away.
Governor
there's
Hochul.
What happened? Yeah, Hochul.
Yeah, right away. Hochul. Yeah, them all of them. Yeah.
Eric Adams is in a statement when he was asked about the Supreme Court overturning the carry permits for the state of New York. He said everybody should be very, very afraid. Boy, you want to fear monger anymore? What should we be afraid about exactly? All the shootings and violent crimes that are already taking place? Do you just imagine that if people were allowed to carry that, how many people are in the city? 8 million people? Or was that the whole state?
No, 8 million people are in the city. That's it.
Right. So all of a sudden, all 8 million people in 5 boroughs are all going to be walking around the wild, wild west with a 6-shooter strapped to their hip. And anybody who gives them a dirty look, we're going to just start opening fire. It's never going to happen. If anything, crime might be reduced if a criminal has to think, you know, take a second thought before he goes and assaults this woman walking into her apartment. Oh, gee, she might be packing. I might get shot in the face. Maybe I shouldn't go do this. It was a hook, line, and sinker. Whether this shooting in Buffalo was a false flag or not, that's why I stepped away from it. That's why I didn't bother reading into it, because we knew the playbook. And it's funny that, you know, you mentioned receipts, because I was reading this article on Gab. It was like, oh, Biden says this is the worst shooting, blah, blah, blah. We have a white nationalist problem. But here's and the headlines honestly said, here's the receipts. I even saved something that I found on, I believe, Instagram. These mass shootings are quickly reported and then quickly ignored by the media and the government officials. This skews a false impression among the public that mass shootings are disproportionately caused by white guys. Let's see. Brooklyn subway, mass shooter, Frank James. Iowa nightclub, Timothy Rudy. Goes 1, 2, Sacramento mass shooter, Smiley Martin. These are all these. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 mass shooters in the past 2 years, past year and a half that took place that no one paid attention to because it didn't fit the agenda.
I'd say here, all three of us probably were in agreement that a mass shooting is a bad thing.
Yes, of course.
No matter who does it. But when you look at who's in charge, they only decide which ones are bad or good.
Which one's a headline.
Which one, right. They only decide which ones are bad or good, whether that kind of furthers their agenda or their narrative.
We talked about
violence is bad. It's bad. Go ahead.
We talked about that earlier, like the idea of like, if you're doing something that furthers my cause, I'll give you money. And if you're not, I'll cancel you from Facebook or what, you know what I mean? Like, you know, so, and, you know, so, but with something like this, I mean, yeah, you're right. It's a tragedy. We don't want anyone to die like this. We want people to live full lives and, you know, grow old and you know, and have big families and, you know, enjoy
like you said, we want to go to barbies and have nice nights out and enjoy the nice, sorts of a nice life.
So there's nothing like, you know, but I want to talk about the psychology of the shooter for a second.
Yeah, go for it, man.
Because I know what the media is going to do, right? You know what I mean? We could, you know, anyone remember the Trenton shooter? Exactly.
Yes. Yeah, I do vaguely, but yeah.
Possibly. I got to jog my memory a little bit.
Not ever, but, you know, wasn't it like 15 to 20 people?
Yes.
I got to look a few years ago in Trenton. But my point is this. There's shootings that get a lot of press, not so much. But let's just talk about this for a second, which is the fact that people are getting so frustrated in this country. They're at breaking points. And I'm not saying that like there's any justification for it. But if I could, let me just bring this from a historical point of view, right? The beginning of the country, there were three ideologies. There was monarchy, which we got rid of, right? Just by virtue of declaring independence and, beautiful letter Jefferson wrote, one of the most, the Declaration. Just by that, we just said, no, we're not doing that, right? So there's two ideologies. There's liberalism. And I'm going to take the word back for a second. Classical liberalism. That's what I believe. I guess I'm a liberal. I believe in the Declaration of Independence. I believe in freedom of speech, the right to bear arms. I believe in rights when you go to court. I believe in the universal rights of mankind to live how they want, to do what they want. That is the center. That's the compromise. That's the compromise I made with the world. I said, look, I'm going to do me, you do you. We'll work together. That's a very centrist position, right? Being a liberal. The other is being a socialist. I don't know if you know, in the 19 after Napoleon defeated, the Germans and everything, socialist movements started in Germany. They started in France, all over Europe. Socialism started in the 1820s and 30s. So in Europe, there was monarchists, liberals, and socialists. And socialists and liberals do not get along. Socialists believe that they can socially engineer the world to whatever's in their brain, which is what tyrants do. But it's like, you ever hear someone go, well, if people just wouldn't do that anymore, the world would be, that's a socialist. That
if it was only that easy.
You're
they deny reality, sure.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You just think. And so what you have is, in my mind, America used to be conservative liberals and progressive liberals, people that wanted to keep our system and preserve our traditions, and people that wanted to move forward to a better new day, like a backwards looking, forwards looking. But they were all liberals. You talk to a Democrat in 1950, they believe in freedom of speech. Yeah. They could have been anti-war. You know what I mean? They were a liberal, but they disagreed with they wanted to change things, right? But they still had that Bill of Rights kind of framework.
Well, they agreed on the principles, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is what we're about. Even Martin Luther King, Martin Luther King was citing the Declaration of Independence, saying, hey, we were promised this. We're here to reclaim what's ours.
Martin Luther King was one of the famous things he said was, there's no more bigger proponent of violence than my own country's government.
Right.
I mean, wow, imagine a Democrat saying that nowadays.
And then
not going to happen.
He was assassisted. I'm not putting two things together, but hey, feel free.
Right. I think the problem with progressivism is that they overshot the mark. You look at like the LGBT community, like, yes, there should be gay rights. Yes, people shouldn't be harmed or hurt based on their sexual orientation. 2 dudes, 2 women want to get married, go for it. And I think we got to that point at a brief moment, but then we overshot it to the point where we're like, let's bring kids to the dildo factory and bring them to the parade fest. It's just, it got to, you progress to the point you wanted to, and you just never hit the brakes.
I have a theory for that. I was listening to another podcast on that, but let me just finish this one point. So my point is this: at the beginning, we were kind of like all liberals, even though we were conservative liberals and progressive. Yeah. That's kind of the way I look at it. Then we jumped into this on both ends, but especially on the progressive liberal end, we started becoming progressive socialists, which means now I'm not interested in my rights. I'm interested in telling you what to do and fairness for like this. You know what I mean? And that's where we get into. We go from, hey, you can do what you want in your bedroom to now everyone must do what I might.
Go from equality to equity, right?
You go from this thing where we can have a discussion to I want to change the country. But then what's the reaction to that? Well, then what you're going to get is you're going to get conservative socialists. We used to call them national socialists. Right. And that's what you're seeing with this. Right. You're seeing, oh, you want to change everything to the way you want it. Then I'm going to pick up what I have and go do, I'm going to change the country the way I want it. And that's literally what the Nazis did. They picked up their guns to restore honor to Germany, right? To burn those LBGT books, we're bringing back the greatness, the manliness of Germany, blah, 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 right? That was socialists reacting to progressive socialists. It was like the conservative, or what I mean, the national socialists moving backwards.
That's what Nazi means, national socialists. Yeah.
Extremes. And then in the middle is the guys going, hey, can we just leave each other alone?
Yeah, right. I just want to have a barbecue and shoot my guns.
barbecue.
Just leave me alone.
So that's kind of I see the more we have of this progressive communist socialism, right? Or whatever you want to call it, the more reactionary socialism we're going to get. And that's what they want. See, this is one of the things that's going to make them win. If they can turn all of us down the middle, civil libertarian, freedom-loving people into Nazis, like I'm not saying just in the news, but if they can turn us into legitimate Nazis, you know what I mean? Then you know what I mean?
I've started seeing that and feeling it a lot towards like the LGBT community where it was people being accepting of it and then flipping the script of like transgenderism's a mental disorder, blah, to hating it because it gets shoved so far down your throat that you're almost forced to react in the opposition. Just like when a few episodes ago we were talking about how the Supreme Court Roe v. Wade thing got leaked. I'm pro-choice, but I've been dragged through so much mud and dealt with so much shit that I will be pro-life just to watch the other side crash and burn at this point. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, it's not about values now. It's like, I need to win because you can't leave well enough alone. Yeah.
Well, I get it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, Cap. Definitely. Yeah, I have seen it too. I consider myself libertarian anarchist, right? So I don't agree with that. But I've seen the point made when it comes to stuff like that of people like I don't want to name names, right? But I've seen people on social media, like public speakers, figures, saying like, "Oh, look, we warned you that when they legalized gay marriage, it was a slippery slope." I'm like, come the fuck on now. You know what I mean? Yeah, right. You're right. That's what they're doing. Now they're going the opposite way too much. That's not logical. That's not realistic. I mean, me personally, I don't understand why we need to get permission from the government in general to get married, why they're even involved in the transaction. Never thought they had to be. So I think the whole thing is ridiculous to begin with. But I do think it's yes, you're right. There is an overreaction from the other side. It is dangerous, right? That's how you lead to an actual hot civil war that lead is flying back and forth.
It's a medium action met with a large reaction. Tim Pool 1,000 episodes ago put it the best way of, you and your sister are sitting in the back seat, and your sister has her finger right up to your face, but she's not touching you, but she's annoying the shit out of you. And then I'm not touching you, and you lose your shit and you cock back and you crack her in the face and smack her across the face. Who gets in trouble? You do. It doesn't matter that your sister sat there for the past hour, poking you and putting your finger in the face. It only matters because you reacted in the bigger sense. You reacted violently, and that's the progressive agenda where they just pushed so far to force these things on us. They're waiting for that bigger reaction.
Well, you're absolutely right. But if you look at using the terms I was just using before, marriage started out from a conservative socialist place. You can only marry if you're the same race, right? That's the government telling you can only do something, and they're engineering society in a you know what I mean? To be
lunacy, but yeah.
Then they loosened up marriage laws. I don't understand why we have marriage licenses.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
just get rid of them.
Preposterous thought. Yeah,
or with synagogues or whoever. But then, I'm not against gay marriage or anything like that. But then you get here. Actually, this is something that I was listening to. What happened in 2014, 2015? The Supreme Court ruled that gay marriage was legal nationwide. You got to remember there's something else. There's not just the big corporations. They're not just the big banks. There's also these things called, they're called nonprofits, right? You have those big nonprofit entities, the nonprofit industrial complex. Some people call it.
Oh God,
I've never heard that
another
before.
complex.
That's a great term, though. I've never heard that before. That's a great term.
Nonprofits have their own complex, because here's the thing: a nonprofit raises money for a cause. Well, if that cause has been reached, what do? If your cause was to legalize gay marriage and get it across the country, and you raking in billions and billions of dollars and having these lavish dinners and all this stuff, and you were rubbing elbows with all the people, you know what I mean, all the fancy people, right? You want to keep that train going. So what happened after the Supreme Court legalized it? Well, they need something else to raise money for. So
good point.
The next step, and there's big money, and I'm not just saying it's the people don't actually feel the way. Again, I have no animosity towards the common people. I don't care. Hey, if you see at our events, we have a rainbow "Don't Tread on Me" flag. I don't care.
Yeah.
Just don't tread on me. I won't tread on you. You know what I mean? Because
that's a great flag. There's a transgender "Don't Tread on Me" flag too, which is great.
Well, I'm not going to give them and say like I'm against any one group. I'm for what I think is the best thing for everyone, and that's the first thing is to have your freedom. Then you make your own decisions. So I'm okay with that. But here's the thing: it kind of makes sense, that theory, right? I didn't come up with that theory. I was listening to others. I forget. I listen to so much stuff, so I don't even remember who said it. But yeah, I thought that was a great point. That there's a lot of money that didn't know where to go after gay marriage was legalized.
I always say that about Bernie Sanders. He's like a one-trick pony. Like, if he was able to get Medicare for all, like he'd be like, oh shit, what do I do now? Like,
right.
If they canceled student debt, like this guy'd be like, I guess I'm out of a job. He'd have nothing left to say.
Yeah, I've heard Jimmy Dore. I'm sure some of you guys are familiar with Jimmy Dore. Make that point of, he gave them the chance. They had it. They could have done it. Like, he's a true believer in Medicare for all, Jimmy Dore. But they didn't do it. Now he's at the point where they're fucking frauds. They're liars. It's a carrot on the end of the stick, which they keep putting in front of you forever. And they have no intention of getting it done, because once they do, then they're fucked. They got nothing to fundraise or do anymore, right? I don't know. They'd have to go back to maybe being anti-war or something like that, right? I mean, right now, Bernie Sanders fucking voted for the $40 billion to Ukraine thing. So now even Bernie Sanders and AOC, they're pro-war. It's a wild thing to see. So yeah, they'd have to go back to opposing things that actually matter instead of things that they know that it's never going to happen. Like Medicare.
That's not going to happen either. They're not going to oppose things, and it's not just Democrats. Look at Republicans.
Of course, it's both sides of the fence.
But no, look at like the legit example. I forget who came out with it, but I mean, there's articles all over the place about how Republicans were saying that they were told behind closed doors that we can't vote to repeal Obamacare because there's an election coming up.
Yeah,
like we can't actually repeal it. Look, I'm not a Republican. Like, and what I mean by that is I'm not rah any party.
Sure. They
had 2 years from 2016 to 2018, and they talked and did nothing. So, you know what I mean? So it's like, and this fuels these populist candidates even more. Look at Mastriano and PA. You know what I mean? Look at what even was going on with Kathy Barnett, right? But you look across some of these races, and I mean, look, it's popping up politics, culture. People are losing it. You have mass shootings. I mean, they happen a lot, and it's like, yeah, we can fight about like what laws, but right now the government can't get baby food to babies. Yet we're going to entertain the idea of them taking everyone's guns away. You know what I mean?
Or solving a mental health crisis for numerous people. Right.
But even think about the logistics of it.
Yeah.
You can't get baby food to mothers. Not everyone's a mother in this country. There's 400 million guns floating around. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I'm thinking about it from the perspective of someone who goes like, you know what we should do? We need to get rid of drugs. Let's just make drugs illegal. You know what I mean? Let's just get rid of drugs. I mean, I know we've tried, having them. It's like, guys, they've been illegal for like ever. And they're still everywhere. So it's like
the successful war on drugs.
Right. I have the opposite opinion. I think they should all be legalized, and that would sort things out on its own.
Well, I was being sarcastic, but yeah.
I'm not. Yeah. But that's for another day. One interesting thought I had about mass shootings is they kind of remind me somewhat of, I wasn't alive, but again, you're a history teacher, right? There was a period in American history where like serial killers were a thing this was happening all the time in like the 70s and the 80s. Son of Sam, Ted Bundy, blah, 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 blah. Like this was like a fad. Like killing people in certain ways becomes a trend for some reason, right? But now there's really not many serial killers anymore. I'm like, when's the last time you heard about a new Ted Bundy or something like that, right? Like, that kind of doesn't happen anymore. But now what happens is this mass shooting thing. It sort of has almost replaced serial killers in a way as that trendy way to kill people.
And it's also, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It's also odd that like these mass shooters never, get to, get away and do it again. you watch Batman chase the Joker, and the Joker always gets away to terrorize the city again. You know, I'm glad that they get caught immediately, but like these serial killers had careers that spanned years, some decades. You know, Ted Bundy, you know, escaped out of a courthouse and ran to Florida and started killing people. Like nobody gets away. It's odd that it's always just this one day event too.
It's a different event, however.
Yeah,
much
I guess
more.
so.
You know, a serial
Public.
killer is stealthy and does it quietly. A mass shooter is obviously just this traumatic, loud experience involving multiple people. The point I was gonna, the point I was gonna maybe try and make, if we're gonna have to put on our tinfoil hats here, boys, for a minute. Bear with me. This is usually your
Never comes
area.
off.
This is your area of expertise, Cap, but I'm going in. I'm diving in. Everybody's familiar with Charlie Manson, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you guys have heard of MK Ultra, that whole program. Mm-hmm. And there is pretty conclusive evidence that Charlie Manson was involved with MK Ultra, right? In some extent, that is how he learned to brainwash his own followers, essentially. MK Ultra was a government program, right? It's possible that MK Ultra led to this serial killer activity, right? It's sort of like a domino effect. Is it impossible to think something similar has occurred here? Another new MK Ultra program or something like that, that is causing this new trend in people killing people in a different way, very similarly to MK Ultra and serial killers. What do you guys think?
My only disagreement with what you said was MK Ultra was a government program. It probably still is.
Well, it's not. Let's put it this way: it's not called MK Ultra anymore. It's a new
well,
people, new name.
Everything gets, you know, rebranded, you know, where, you know, they find a new way to sell you the same old product that you know. I think there's definitely, you know I'm quick to jump on the conspiracies and every shooting's a false flag, and I know it's not the case.
Well, it doesn't have to be a false flag if people are like mind controlled or they've been indoctrinated into doing something. It's real. It's not fake.
I definitely believe there is, and I definitely think there's other and new ways about going about it. And also just, it might have not been like Charlie Manson might have been in a room and MK Ultra'd, whereas things that have occurred now where you look at the Buffalo shooter, where he kind of got into these forums and these group chats because he was secluded, because we were locked down in, you know, with the COVID lockdowns, where you're almost MK Ultra has evolved maybe to the point exactly where, you know what I'm saying, where like you don't have to be brainwashed, you just have to be put in certain situations long enough, and the weak will do your
you'll be radicalized, right? So
yeah,
let's come up with something here, right? This is something I was thinking about today, right? Like, yes, there was the MK Ultra program, and they had it where in like in California or something like that, right? And they're bringing people in, dosing them up with LSD, whatever it is, right? You don't have to do it that way anymore, right? I guess, I mean, it is this shooter, right? He did put that he was on 4chan and 8chan and these websites, right? Which people have said there's a lot of people who say crazy shit on there and radicalize people. Who's doing that radicalizing? Is it another random person or is it a CIA operative, right? And you don't, maybe they're not dosing people up with LSD like they did, like what Manson was doing, but they're targeting you and they're antagonizing, they're just like they did to Muslim men after 9/11, right? They, you know, entrapped them and encouraged them. You should do this and you should do that, and the FBI shows up and arrests them. Again, I have no proof of anything, just speculating here.
But now hear me out, and I'll let you go after this, Jeff. I'm sorry. Yeah. You know, fine, you don't need to be doped up with LSD, but look at the pharmaceutical industry. Forget fucking vaccines. There's my toe hurts, I got a pill for you. My ear hurts, take these 2 pills. You know, there is a pill to make you happy, a pill to make you less happy, a pill to feel everything, a pill to feel nothing. You don't need to be on LSD anymore. You just need a doctor that doesn't give a fuck, that's going to get paid $30,000 for every prescription he subscribes. You know, and you sit around and you get years of, you know, all this pharmaceutical crap put in you. You're eating McDonald's and fake meat all day long. It's easier. you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm sure it's all connected in one way.
You said dope, you know, another thought you just gave me is
marijuana's legalized.
You get a dopamine hit from social media, right? That's
Yeah.
a drug being released in your brain. That's another drug right there. And you know,
think of 4chan. If you're getting radicalized on 4chan and what is it?
4chan.
4chan, sorry. Think like if it is so compelling that it is radicalizing people, think of what type of dopamine hit that is compared to seeing your favorite car or some sexy chick on Instagram.
Well, yeah, it goes back to a little bit of what I was saying earlier with how people aren't stepping up. Parents, you look at communities, you know, everyone's running on dopamine hits. That's a very childish thing to do, is to just wait. You know what I mean? To be an addict. That's what a lot of us, we are. Like, I fight it with the phone, you know?
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
The phone, you go back to the phone, you go back to the phone, you go back to the bad food, you go back to the bad food, you go back to not working out. You know what I mean? You have these habits, and a lot of people, I mean, we're a sick country. Like
dying for Burger King.
It's good, you know, but man, it's bad after. You know what I mean? But let's go back to what you were just saying. Is it possible that this could happen? The wise man once told me that I have rules in life, and my number one rule is I don't trust anything the government tells me. That was George Carlin. He's one of my heroes.
Oh yeah, me too.
And so I'll say this: the government, if you can think it, they've had a meeting about it. They've sat down and thought about it. I don't know. I don't know. But is it possible? There's nothing impossible about anything you said, you know? So it's just, to me, it's like the important thing though. And again, for me, if I was going to Buffalo, which I'm not because I can't, like, I don't have time with my family and stuff. But if I was going to go to Buffalo, I'm not the president and I don't want to be the president, but I'm just saying, like, especially if you were a politician, you know, forget the politicians. If you're going to Buffalo, are you going to talk about like that kind of go where Alex Jones went, where he's like, oh, is this the false flag? You know, no, it's the focus on let's go back and say, look, terrible thing happened in our community. We had a really sick person. Let's make sure that the other sick people in our community aren't a threat, that they can get help. Let's make sure that the victims, you know, have, if they can't afford a funeral, that we're able to get them a funeral. You know, let's make sure that we really understand that there's people here. And as freedom-loving people, we should be the ones there first, helping first. We're in a nice sunset. You might be able, we'll be online very shortly. I just got a new shipment in. So, but my point is like, you can go there, bring your American flags. You know, you don't have to protest. Go help. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? Show support.
That's
you know,
I'm sorry, but like you really just like inspired a thought. Like, that's such a better effing idea than Joe Biden going there and just blaming this on guns, Republicans, and white people. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you could get this community of business owners or whatever just to show up and be like, I'm going to donate. We collected $10,000. We're going to disperse it to help, you know, pay a little bit of everybody's funeral. We're here to hold a rally, a barbecue. We're going to sell shirts in memory of you know, the people. That is such a better idea, you know, than Joe Biden going, the Republicans did this.
Yeah, well, I saw a great example of that, right? Chris, you're somewhat familiar with Maj Touré, right? Maj Touré is the founder of Black Guns Matter. He's like a community activist. He believes in building community and teaching people in the inner cities how to have responsible gun ownership. He drove up to Buffalo, right? And he went there with the intention of consoling people and then teaching them safe, responsible gun ownership. And I'm pretty sure today he got arrested in Canada because of guns or something like that. Nice. But he had the right idea. That's leadership. Something happened. He went there to go to support the community and almost do the opposite of what the talking point is, right? Of the talking points, ban all the guns, guns, right? But here comes an African-American man who has founded a community organization intended on teaching poor African-American people in the inner city responsible gun ownership. He drove his ass up there and he fucking tried to do something positive to help. That is a leader. That is what we need more of.
Absolutely. And, you know, I mean, we're sitting there, you know, like I said, we have, and again, it's a politician, another politician. What is Joe Biden? Joe Biden goes there and he starts the talking points. But think about how disrespectful this is to these families.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Yeah. He's not even talking really to the families. He's using them as a backdrop behind it.
That's why I didn't want any part of this story, man.
You attack his political opponents, not in Buffalo, in the rest of the country. So he's using a tragedy in that setting. You know what I mean? Like,
it's revolting. It's revolting.
He's only there to pick the low-hanging fruit for his base. Yeah, that's it.
I agree with you 100%. Dude, we had a conversation about this. It's revolting. It's been a long week. We're taking a break next week just because it's been too much, dude. And this was a disgusting thing. Obviously, the thing itself and the reaction after. It's gross. It really is. We'll get into our tweets of the week later, and you're going to see more of it in a minute. Trust me. Yeah. So what
do we want to get into? The
you want to get into it? Yeah, let's jump into it.
All right. So Jeff, we've started this new little segment. We find tweets from from the last podcast up to today. We save them. We're going to share them. We'll comment on them. Any ideas? Some of them are just let's laugh at them and say how stupid it is. Some of them are thought provoking, and we go from there. So
let's do it.
Yep.
Yeah. So let's start with one of yours, Cap.
All right.
This is from good.
Okay. By reinstating Trump, Elon Musk is condoning lies and disinformation. He's clearly comfortable with someone inciting violence to overthrow our government. The march towards autocracy continues. This was on May 10th. 2 weeks after Trump has, for the millionth time, said he's not coming back to Twitter. Yeah. But yet we are still worried that we are going to incite violence and spread disinformation through Trump. I get it. People don't like Trump, and I get it. They don't want him on Twitter, but he's not coming. This is like
they
when
keep
you
making
throw
the point over and over and over and over and over and over and over. Yeah.
This is like when you throw a party and you're like, let's not invite Jeff. And then everybody at the party is like, oh my God, Jeff. The whole party's about fucking Jeff now, but you threw it to not invite him. Like, it's ridiculous.
Let me make the point here. How about the iron law of woke projection? Silencing people is not autocracy, but coming back onto the forum to speak freely and allowing free speech is autocracy, right? I mean, come on, it's fucking projectionism. Rob Reiner's a clown to begin with. Jeff, you got any thoughts on this one?
So let me just see this. So by
let's zoom in.
Sorry. So no, I can see it now. So by writing that declaration, Mr. Jefferson is condoning lies and disinformation. He's clearly comfortable with someone inciting violence to overthrow our government. The march continues. Is that King George?
Right.
This is translated into Revolutionary War times, right?
Exactly.
Change a few names. I mean, Rob Reiner, are you out of your mind? Like, do you know where you live? Only 5% of the people live in America. You don't have to live here. Go somewhere else if you don't want to speak freely. That's fine. Like, I don't know.
Go to China.
Like, you go anywhere. There's plenty of places. We're 5% of the population. Like, come on. Like,
that's funny. That just reminds me of I mentioned James Lindsay earlier. One of James Lindsay's claims to fame is I believe he rewrote a portion of Mein Kampf, and he changed the words Jew to like white people, and the leftists raved because they don't know, they never read Mein Kampf before or anything like that. I mean, isn't that something that's telling right there? It's like when you read Mein Kampf, you just change one word, you all of a sudden are all for it, but when it was the other way, you're not. All right, let's move on to the next one. So I've learned from my mistakes. I had a really good one. I clicked on it earlier to test it. It's gone. I'm supposed to screenshot these because people delete their really bad tweets all the time. Next time I will make sure that I'm on it.
Yeah, I didn't screenshot anything, so we're gambling with mine.
So let's go to this one. White fans were entertained by black athletes a day after a racist killed black people in Buffalo. This is what white supremacy looks like. That one's from Deadspin. This is a bad one, folks. No way around it. I don't know.
So were white people not supposed to watch basketball because of what happened in Buffalo?
I mean, that's what I guess.
But also, wouldn't it be kind of racist if white people were like, "Yeah, I'm not going to watch basketball anymore because it's just all black people"?
Yeah,
you
summed it up perfectly.
This is garbage.
Yeah, it really is, dude. It really is. I mean, this is Deadspin again, blue check mark. Part of the reason why we do tweets of the week is to show people the crazy shit that accountability. right? This is kind of our version of defying L's in a way.
I mean, what did they, when I lived in Virginia, they would say, "Oh, bless your heart."
AKA, go fuck yourself.
That's in the Jersey translation. But I really feel, I mean, this is Deadspin. This is like a company, because I don't really listen.
They're a very popular sports publication.
Yeah. Because if this was like, a person, I would feel bad. Like, just come, like, you want to come to
Do you need help? So wait, so our buddy Greg went to the Celtics game.
Yes.
So he's a white supremacist.
Yes, white supremacist
for attending a basketball game.
Patronizing an event that the people who are making the product are some of, it's not even like all of them. Every single person is African American on the basketball team. They are mixed, right? But you're patronizing an African American establishment that makes you a white supremacist somehow.
Well, I thought the Celtics, wouldn't that be like cultural appropriation from the Irish?
It is from the Irish,
Well,
can't have that.
Gotta change the name.
All right, let's go on to one of your next ones, Cap. Let's go here.
Elon Musk tried to buy the Biden family, but China refused to sell. I have believed for a long time that I believe China has owned Joe Biden since his first year as vice president.
Well, I'll tell you this. Joe Biden forever was owned by the credit card companies. He's a Delaware boy. All the credit card companies are out of there. So he's a credit card company guy. Like, all the credit cards are on him. And, if he was a NASCAR guy, That should be. But what I think is the credit card companies were bought by China. So, there you go. Both, right? But
look at the first comment from anti-stupid, aka anti-Republican. He could buy the Trump family. Oh, forgot Putin doesn't like to sell either.
Yeah.
Oh man, sometimes you find gems in comments too. I mean,
I never read the comments, and I know it's just always misspelled.
Hey, I will. I want to give ammunition to people for one thing, though. If you are talking to someone, especially a younger person, and they're saying, my student loans are crazy expensive, I can't pay them, at least Biden's going to maybe forgive them. The one person most responsible in Congress for the fact that you can't go through bankruptcy with student loans is Joe Biden. Yeah. Joe Biden was pushing for that bill for years and years. I started college in 2006. I think you guys are the same age, right? Right about right? Yep. So I started college in 2006 at JMU. 2006 was the year they said you can't bankrupt your student loans anymore. You know what I mean? Student loan problem goes away if you can just go through bankruptcy. You can't bankrupt that debt.
It's amazing that you can bankrupt
for that. So just so everyone knows, use that. That's real information.
Yeah. I think people also forget how long Joe Biden has been in government, right?
Yeah.
And
40 years
is an example of the thing I say all the time is government creates the problem, and then later they sell themselves as the solution. A lot of the fucked up situations that, people on the left find themselves in right now, he is the direct, author of those situations. And now he is the person who's selling himself as your hero. Let's go on to.
Well, they're trying to. Joe's having a tough time.
Here we go. It's from Morgan Freeman. Being anti-racist starts by admitting whiteness is a disease. This should come as no surprise to anyone who really understands what the term anti-racism means. Defined by anti-racist scholar Ibram X. Kendi, it is present. What is it? It's past discrimination can only be remedied by present and future discrimination. So anti-racism actually means to be racist.
Yeah, I read his books. Yeah, just to see what you're saying.
It's a very clever marketing scheme.
Well, in actuality, so here's the real breakdown. So what they say in one of his books is he says that there's anti-racists, then there's two groups of racists. You have segregationists, the out and out racists that don't want anyone that's not of their ethnicity near them. And then there's the accommodationists, those that say, if blah, blah, blah community just got their stuff together and, pulled themselves up by their bootstraps, they could be equal to us, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is in his books, he put people like Martin Luther King, Barack Obama, a lot of mains, like Bill Cosby, are all accommodationists, which means they're racists. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Right, in his purview, right.
And this is the thing, like, you can have discussions about this, and like, I have no problem actually like having that in schools so people can look at it as like one of the theories, to have a debate. You know what I mean? About what does it actually mean to be racist? Because this is what some people are saying. Some people are saying it is by judging by the color of your skin. I don't know. I think that was Martin Luther King, but you know what I mean? So you can have a discussion on it. But what happens is it's like, if this is real consequences, because if you work in a job and you get put in the accommodationist category, you're racist. And if you're a racist business owner, you can't be in business. You have to abide by the civil rights. You know what I mean? Like it starts affecting, you get fired from your job for being racist. But here's so they changed the definition. In order to be anti-racist, they said you have to constantly uplift people of color, which to me goes, okay, so what if I'm just a surfer and I just go surfing every day? Am I not doing, you know what I mean? Like, do I have to be politically active? So it's but
also, what does it say about the company that you have to continuously uplift a certain race? Because then at a certain point, not that everyone's a bad employee, but at a certain point, the white guy who is a quote unquote expert in his position doesn't get moved up to management to run the company more efficiently, to make a bigger profit for the company. But the black guy or the Spanish guy or whatever, who is just not an expert, who is not as organized, who is not as efficient as the quote unquote expert, gets moved up to management, and now things are falling apart. Did you really make things that much better?
Sounds like communism to me.
Yeah. It's surprising too that Morgan Freeman, do you guys remember that clip from Morgan Freeman years ago where he was like, I'm not a black man, you're not a white man, we're just men?
I don't think that's that.
I don't think this is Morgan Freeman.
This is just some.
Yeah. This is a white guy.
This is the white Morgan Freeman, which is funny because it's a white guy again who made
Freeman, not Friedman.
Yeah, and it's some blue check Twitter. They're all
got it. I was like, Morgan Freeman.
They're all basically of the same hive mind. So you got one more here, Cap, I believe, right?
I got two more. I think check that third one.
So yeah, you're right.
And then the last one's a pretty good one.
All right.
Breaking: the U.S. government is invading Somalia. Where is the global outrage and the sanctions? Earlier this week, Joe Biden sent military to invade Somalia. Pretty sure after Trump pulled troops out of Somalia, no one cares. Where are the Somalian flags? No
one even really knows about it.
Yeah, it's not even news.
Yeah,
not even news. We're going off to a war. Everybody's so pro-war now. This is right up everyone's fucking alley. We got to help. We got to help out around the world. We can't feed our babies. We're gonna have food shortages soon. I can't afford gas to fill up my car, but we're gonna go to war, people.
Yeah, I mean, this points back to also what we've talked with Scott Horton about before. After 9/11, there was like 9 wars we were involved in, and most people only knew about 2 of them, Iraq and Afghanistan. There's the war in Yemen that we launched and have been continuing to help. That's killed 500,000 people, and it's insane the situation people in Yemen have gone through.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see any Yemeni flags anywhere, right? And I don't know, being from the Bronx, man, I know a lot of fucking Yemeni people. They were like a staple of your corner store, right? It's like the thing that they're always in. You know what I mean? But I don't see any outrage about that. It's people are like NPC bots, dude. You
guys want to hear my theory on this?
Go for it. Yeah, please.
My theory is the reason why you have the globalist section of the politicians or whatever, right? You have the nationalist kind of politicians, but then you have the global who work for these big, like we've been talking about the whole time, this big money, right? These families and these companies, right? Well, the reason I think that they don't really care about, let's say, the US-Mexican border, or they don't really care about the Somalian war or the Yemenis war, is because these are all borders and places inside of the Atlantic Empire, or whatever I would call this, right? All of North and South America, Europe, parts of Africa, parts of the Pacific, right? And if there's fighting inside the empire, they're not going to report on it because it doesn't benefit them. The only fighting they're going to mention is at the edge. The edge of Ukraine is actually more important to them because that's actually the border of their empire. Whatever
you're right. You are making the point that I've made, and Scott Horton has made. It's like, yes, apparently now Russia's border is America's border. Our border extends all the way to Russia's border with Ukraine, right? And if there is an attack on Ukraine, that is an attack on America. That is a fucking very telling, very wild thought to entertain or to have. Yeah.
So I'm just saying that's my point of view and how I'm looking at it. People can, all of my points of view can be changed with facts and evidence. I'm married to my wife. My wife also, I want to mention, my wife and my brother are also owners of our company. We're a small business, supporting small business. My wife, beautiful wife, Nicole, couldn't do it without her. Can't do it without my brother, Phil, who was a Navy vet. So the three of us, we work together. We're military and educator owned, but you're absolutely right. It's insane. But if you think about it the way I just said it and go watch the news again, it makes total sense.
Yeah.
It's like they care about the borders from which they don't control the other side of.
Yeah, that's a good perspective. I never thought of it.
Someone else could get stronger on the outside. We can't allow that.
Right.
Yeah. Also, one other point I can make real quick.
Yeah.
I was reading something the other day about these food shortages and how they keep talking about food shortages. One of the things I forget which author, I just reading so much, but one of the things I was reading was about how these food shortages are actually, the theory is to starve the periphery of the empire back into submission. So before the pandemic, there was countries getting squirrely, like in France, and you know what I mean? Different. They started electing these populists in different areas. Le Pen, you know what I mean, was coming up big. And we had, you look at Hungary, you look at, different countries. All of the food, if you join the IMF, the first thing the IMF makes you do is get rid of your food independency. They say you have small farms. You have to have big, pushed out agriculture that we can ship to the world.
A documentary about how they did that to Jamaica, and essentially the Jamaican crop and produce was worthless. Like they were flushing thousands of gallons of milk down the drain because there was nothing they could do with it. Their bananas were worthless, all because of the IMF and all that.
Yeah. And this is the same IMF that's in league with the people who run this government who are complaining of racism all the time, and they're starving out Jamaica. You know what I mean? Like, so let's cut the crap for a second, okay? What they're doing is they don't want the empire to get squirrely in this time. They see this option to go to this Chinese-Russian axis, right? So the idea is if you're an IMF country, you don't have independent agriculture. So where are you getting your food from? You're getting it from Iowa. It's coming from Iowa. It's coming from America. All of those crops that we're growing in the middle of the country, the breadbasket, we ship it all across our empire. Right, I call it, again, the Atlantic Empire. I'm calling it, but you can call it whatever you want, right? And what's going to happen is the shortages are going to happen at the periphery of the empire. We're going to pay a lot more money for food, but we're going to have it. Hopefully, that's the theory. It's not my theory, but that was the theory of it. That America, the inside the country, it's just going to be way more expensive. But it's going to be the starvation of millions or tens of millions of people, of black people, people of color, white people, but people that aren't in the middle of the empire. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's a theory. And just kind of keep your eye on that one too, because I just saw that.
We'll keep the receipt.
Well, look, you see right now. You see, you're right now. You see in Sri Lanka right now, they're in complete civil unrest and revolution because of food shortages. Right?
They're hunting and killing politicians and journalists.
You also see something occurred in Pakistan recently where they were entertaining, listen, we're kind of not going to take your side in the Russia-Ukraine thing, and we're going to kind of just buy oil from Russia in rubles. Well, like the very next fucking day, Imran Khan, the president of Pakistan, is just overthrown magically in a day. And he ousted from power, and a new president is installed. And Imran Khan himself is like, I was just a coup, was just done to me by the United States of America. Where was that in mainstream news? I saw it because I'm looking for this shit, but it wasn't anywhere. And I'm sure most people don't even know that fucking happened. The president of a country said that America just overthrew him, completed a coup, while we're over here saying we need to protect the democracy of Ukraine because it's the last freestanding bastion of freedom in the world. Yeah.
No, I mean, look, it's just all the action happens on the edges of the empire. Like a lot of it does, other than like putting down civil unrest and stuff. But I mean, they've gotten really good at it. Think about what they do now. They use psychological manipulation. They used to go around the world in red coats with muskets and just point it at you and go, you're now a subject of the British Empire. You know, they've gotten a lot better at what they do.
Right.
I give this analogy. So can I just give it real quick? So this is this analogy I really like. Imagine if you were the owner of a bar and grill. You know, I mean, you're sitting there, it's a slow day, so you're just, at the bar, wiping the bar down, and you're the owner. And a guy comes in a red coat with a rifle and points it at you and says, "This is my bar now. Hand it over." And then 10 other guys come right behind him and secure the bar and kick you out and everything. Now he owns the bar, right? But what is the issue with this? Well, everyone at the bar knows he stole it.
Right.
It's like everyone that lives there is like, yo, that guy's strong, but he's not supposed to be here, right? You know what I mean? And it causes the natives get restless.
Yes.
This is one thing the French Empire was terrible at. They would always, put Frenchmen in charge of their colonies and stuff. It's stupid. The British were better. They would pick a sellout to run, which is what we still do, right? But this is, imagine the different scenario. Instead of the red coat, instead of the rifles, imagine a businessman walks in a suit and he goes to the bar and he says, "Is this your bar?" And you're like, "Yeah." He's like, "I want to buy your bar." And he drops a briefcase with way more money than you would ever ask for your bar. And you go, "Oh my God, thank you." And you walk out and you go buy yourself, a nice villa somewhere. You know what I mean? On the water down. I would go Italy, but you go Florida if you want to too. Florida, DeSantis is making it nice down there. But my point is this. You would just walk out the door. Everyone in the bar thinks there was a legitimate transaction that took place, right? Problem is, all that money was fake. That wasn't real. He printed it off a printer.
Right. Where did it come from? Exactly.
So this is what I try to explain to people about empire. They used to do it with muskets and red coats and be in your face about it. They don't do it that anymore. They print money and buy the world with money that doesn't exist. Yeah. And then they kick us all off of the land that we used to own because we can't afford it anymore. Are you kidding me?
And I mean, at least,
they're just messing with us. They're trying to take all our stuff.
At least in the recent future too, they actually used to print the money, physically, with a printing press. I mean, now they just push a fucking button on a keyboard and there's $40 trillion
more zeros
right there. Yeah. I mean, at least the counterfeiting before they actually did some counterfeiting. With the counterfeiting. Right. Now they don't even do any more counterfeiting. It's just digital creation. It's wild, dude.
Let's get this last tweet out.
Yeah, let's go for it. The last one is probably my worst.
Well, I still have one more after this. I don't see the link on yours.
Do you want to go over yours? Let's go over yours.
Yeah.
Then we'll go on mine. This is Jordan.
So this guy, he caught a bit of heat about this, but I don't disagree. I don't disagree.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, not beautiful. No amount of authoritarian tolerance is going to change that.
So for context, for people who are listening, this is Jordan. This is Dr. Jordan Peterson, and he's commenting on the Sports Illustrated swimsuit 22. It's a bit of a thick woman. She's pretty thick, honestly. I don't think he's even that accurate here.
Don't think she's worked out a day in her life.
You and disagree, but Jordan Peterson is essentially criticizing her. Go ahead, Ken.
Now, I don't find this woman unattractive or that she's some horrendous, individual. But this was my point before about, being so progressive, we missed the mark. You know what I'm saying? I'm glad that Sports Illustrated is not body shaming anyone. I'm happy that they are being full body inclusive, but not all of Sports Illustrated subscribers are going to agree to this. The problem with this is that someone like this woman is put on this cover and you are supposed to love it. You are supposed to agree with it. If you don't, you're a bad person.
True.
Not everybody has the same taste. And I could promise you that this swimsuit magazine doesn't sell as much as when Kate Upton was on the cover. You know what I'm saying? Will this sell?
Of hot women.
Will this sell? Yes, I'm sure it is. But it doesn't. But the fact that people want to fight him because he doesn't want to accept this is lunacy. Look, you're body inclusive. you got what you wanted. You got people of all shapes, sizes, and colors on the cover of the swimsuit magazine, but it does not mean everybody is going to love it.
Fair enough. I think it's a bit extreme of an example. I really like Jordan B. Peterson. I think he's a great guy and he's very insightful. A lot of words of wisdom. I think
he's taken a lot of shit for this.
Oh yeah, I know. He's taking a break from Twitter because of it.
Yeah.
He kind of had a little meltdown himself. I honestly, I think she's pretty hot. I don't really have much of a problem with it. Thick women are hot too. Thick women need love. So I don't think it's that big of an issue.
It goes back to what you were saying earlier, Chris, about how like it's starting to get to you where you actually are like, yo, like I don't know. Like, you know what I mean? And you want to fight back a little bit. I feel like Jordan that's what happened right here. He got a little hot and he got his eyes off the prize. The prize aren't the people that are living like the common people are not the prize. The prize are the elites that are doing some of these things. Now, for this, let me say two things. Beauty's in the eye of the beholder. Okay. Something I think is beautiful. Now I know that there's aesthetics and things like that. I get that. The second thing though is Sons of Liberty. We are all about fitness. Okay. I'm going to go from a different angle. Being healthy is the number one thing you should be trying to do. Okay. Don't just lose. Some people lose weight and they're not healthy. Some people have more weight on them and they have muscle and are healthier. You know what I mean? Just be healthy. That's all. That's my point of view. You know what I mean? But that's, that's not for everyone.
What do you mean? This is healthy.
Yeah, that whole argument that being obese is as healthy as being healthy is nonsense. Let's just nonsense.
This is the up is down, 2 + 2 = 5 crap.
Like even in public school health class, that is nonsense.
Why wellness doesn't have to be one size fits all. Yeah, right. I mean, I agree with you on that. You made a good point, Cap, about body shaming and whatnot. Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, it hurts people's self-esteem and whatnot. Yeah, but you're right. Like we shouldn't be saying this. This doesn't make any sense. This is 2 + 2 = 5. Yes, this is healthy. No, being fat and obese is not healthy. We should not be encouraging people to do that. We shouldn't be shitting on them. Definitely, I agree there. We shouldn't be encouraging them or lying to them. Something that's based in fallacy. That this is healthy. That's bullshit. Yeah.
People need to stop thinking so much and being on social media. Thinking is great. When I don't mean thinking, I just mean they sit around and think and like, oh, what do people think about me? Get up. Yeah. Come over. Let's come to a Sons of Liberty event. We'll do some axe throwing. You'll have a great time. Start a fire. Like, you know what I mean? Go
do some push-ups.
Barbecue. Yeah. Start a fire. Do something fun. Stop it with all this stuff. If we go down this road, we're gonna drive all of us crazy in this country.
Well, I think we've passed that.
Yeah.
Well, all of us. Some of us are still have it together, right?
So I got one more.
All right, let's go for it.
This one it's pretty fitting for whatever reason the link wouldn't work on this one. I wonder if that has anything to do with it. I have to like literally copy and paste.
Hey guys, give me 1 second. I realized I wasn't plugged in, so just give me 1 second and I'll be right back. Okay.
Yeah. Right. Go ahead. So yeah, me and you, Cap, will start here. So this is from one of your favorites, I'm sure. This is from Rep Eric.
Real upstanding guy.
He tweets, "My 4-year-old just FaceTimed me to ask what I'm doing to help the people in Buffalo. And why did the bad man do this? Absolutely gutting. This cannot be his normal. It's time to ban assault weapons," in all caps. And it gets worse, right? So people like me read this and I'm like, I'll take shit that didn't happen for 500, Alec, right? A lot of people said that to Eric Swalwell. So Eric Swalwell decides to respond to that. And he goes, "I love the no 4-year-old would ask this takes. You're in absolute denial if you think our kids aren't watching the horrors we are allowing." And he goes on to tweet a photograph of his iMessage, I guess, with his wife, where he texts his wife and he goes, "What is he asking for?" The wife responds, "He wants to know if you are going to help the family of the people who died at the supermarket massacre," followed by a photograph of his young son looking up at CNN. And it's like the news conference about the mass shooting. And then the wife goes, "He's watching the news." This is disgusting. This is absolutely disgusting.
Why are you letting your kids watch this?
I don't know. I don't think he's even letting his kids watch that, right? What he's doing is he's taking his child and he's inserting his child into the conversation as a political pawn. And that goes all the way back to, Jeff, what you were saying before about this whole situation. That is an absolute, it's a horrible fucking situation. But then to bring a child into it and politicize your child and make up a bunch of fake shit. And then even worse, I mean, if he is making his kid watch that, or if the mom is letting the kid watch that, that's also fucked up. Like there's nothing good from all of this. No matter the scenario, there's no good thing here. He doesn't look, I mean, he thinks he looks great. He must really do. That he's some sort of SJW fucking, you know, oh, my kid needs to know about this. That's disgusting. I'm sorry, you know, you should not be exposing your child to mass shootings or using them as fucking political pawns in your job.
And on top of it, so in the text, he's asking, what are you going to do for the families? You want to know, little Johnny, you want to know what Daddy Swallow is doing for the families? He's doing nothing. He's sending out tweets. He's typing on his computer and being a social justice warrior, and he's doing fucking nothing. He's not going to ban assault rifles. He's not going to pay for a single funeral. He isn't going to shake any hands. He's just going to toe the line and tweet. That's all he's going to do.
You know what he is going to do, little Johnny? He is going to make damn sure $40 billion in aid.
Yeah.
And by aid, I mean assault rifles and javelin rocket launchers and shoulder-fired fucking missiles find their way into white nationalist neo-Nazi hands in Ukraine in order to protect democracy. That's what he's going to do about white nationalism in the States.
Jeff, go ahead, and then we'll wrap it up.
Stole the words right out of my mouth. like what did Dave Chappelle say? He's like, people come after me on Twitter, but Twitter's not real. You know, yeah. It's not a real place. Like, you didn't do anything. Your kid asked you, what are you going to do? And then you tweet it to everyone else. My kid asked me what I'm going to do. It's like,
yeah, it's bullshit. You know, you brought up the Dave Chappelle thing.
This always triggers me. It's not a real place.
This triggers me what Dave Chappelle said, because Dave Chappelle's entire bit in there was about how Twitter's not a real place. And the story was about his transgender friend who was bullied by other transgender people on Twitter for her taking Dave's side in this imagined slight that Dave has done to the transgender community. The moral of the story was Dave's transgender friend ended up killing herself because of how bullied she was on Twitter. That sounds like a pretty fucking real place to me, that it was able to do something to somebody like that. That's just my point. I would counter to Dave Chappelle.
I get what you're saying. Yeah, what I say to that is that shows you the power of the human mind. Yeah. Our minds are so powerful. I think they're so much more powerful than we realize. And we can manifest things with them. And, you know, I think that if there's a book I could recommend, it's Think and Grow Rich. It's freaking unbelievable. It was written by Napoleon Hill, who was the assistant to Andrew Carnegie. The power of your mind is unbelievable. And they know it's really, really powerful. So they're manipulating people. Yes. Yeah. It's a real place because you believe it's a real place. Okay. But the moment you say it's not real, you break free from the spell. You know what I mean? You break free. Now, do other people around you are still in the spell? Maybe you have people at work. Did you see what he posted? Did you see what they did? Did you see this? Well, the only thing you really have to worry about are your bosses and your customers, right? You know what I mean? Like, what are they thinking? So you do have to worry about what some people think. You know what I mean? Like when you talk, things can happen, but you might be arguing with a bot.
Yeah.
You know,
like, you should be aware of that, right? Yeah.
No, you know, it's crazy. I think just like guns, the internet can be used for great things and it can be used for terrible things.
Oh, definitely.
And we as a species have to figure out a way to use them properly, you know, as servants rather than masters.
And we're failing at that right now.
Well, tech giants.
We're trying.
I had debates with students about, you know, having their cell phones out and stuff. I legit had a debate even this year as a supervisor. I was debating on one side, me and the other, and, you know, the students were all on one side, me and the other teacher were on the other side. And I ended the debate with this. I said, hey guys, the people who made this technology, do you think they let their kids use it? And we looked up all the articles on how social media, all of the stuff that Bill Gates and Steve Jobs and all of these tech Silicon Valley guys, none of their kids are using it in school up till 8th grade. None of them have cell phones, none of them, because you know what? They know the data. They have the data. And the showing what it's doing to our young people and what it's doing to our old people and our middle-aged people and everyone. It can be used as a tool, but we have to figure out and get to a place. And there's going to be casualties along the way. People are going to get sucked up into stuff, but that's my take at least.
I guess
fantastic
Eric
point.
Swalwell's the only retard who's fucking making his kid actually be involved in it, right?
Yeah.
The stuff. The rest of them ain't. The rest of them realize, hey, this is bad. Not Eric Swalwell.
The politicians aren't the smart ones.
Yeah.
Politicians are just the ones that couldn't do anything else, so they push them out there, kind of like Anderson Cooper. If Anderson Cooper was smart, he would be in a different part of the family empire. They're like, go sit there and read what's in front of you.
Too on the nose.
Yeah. Well, he wants to be famous. So.
Oh, yeah.
But anyway.
Wrap us up, Cap.
All right.
We are going to take a break next week. I think it's long overdue. We have not had a break and can't even remember last time we didn't do an episode. Maybe we'll do a Doom review or something only, but I'm deleting Twitter off my phone for a week. We are going camping and we are going to barbecues, which is what we've been talking about a lot for Memorial Day weekend. We're going to be at barbecues. We're going to be camping. We need a break from politics, so we'll be back.
Going golfing. Yeah,
we'll be back at the beginning of June with more political episodes.
Exactly. Doom Nation, thank you guys for listening. Jeff, shout out your website.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on, man. It's been great. You are a wealth of knowledge and a true patriot. So thank you, man.
Thanks, guys. Well, same to you. Thanks for coming to Revolution Fest in April. I'm going to try to have you guys, if we can, maybe in the future, do it again at breweries.
I'm down. I'm down. You're not that far from us.
Yeah, so we'll talk and everything, but thanks for having me on the show. You can find us at soldiscounts.com. So that's kind of like, Sons of Liberty or,
Shit out of luck.
But soldiscounts.com, and that's usually our tag on like most Gab, Rumble. We're on Telegram and we're on Truth Social, but that's kind of like, how it's going. So we're not on Facebook or Instagram. We were too over the target for them. So they kicked us off, but hey, it's great being on with you guys anytime, have me back if you will. Love you guys. Thanks a lot. And God bless America.
Excellent. Thank you, man. Thank you, Jeff.
All right, guys. And stay positive. We're going to win this. Don't worry.
We are winning. We're not going to win it. We are winning.
We are winning, but just don't get discouraged. Every time something happens, just take a breath, go to a barbecue. We'll regroup. Come back out. All right.
Barbecues are critical, man. They really are.
Yeah. Meat and cheese.
They're the cornerstone of democracy. A good old barbecue.
All right, guys. I'll see you later.
Later.
Peace out. See you later, Doom Nation.